Okay. Sutra 334. Or in the knowledge that dawns by spontaneous enlightenment through a life of purity, all the powers come by themselves. And I'm gonna read. I'm gonna read from Centering Yoga, the blog spot that I've been going back to, and then Jackie, maybe you can read. Here it says, or all may rise like a star. It could be translated as the likeness of a star, and like a star, it is unseen until we find ourselves in darkness. The preceding sutras have detailed that many outcomes of oneness, from the knowledge of all that moves to vision of fulfillment. But here Patanjali reminds us of what we continually forget. Our effort is not what brings us to the goal. Practice may be the beginning of yoga, but non-attachment is the end. His mild chastisement, what does that mean? Or chastisement?
Chastisement?
Chastisement.
Maybe?
Yeah, chastisement. Is almost playful, as he says, va, or forget everything that I've tried to teach you. If you feel that you'll become too caught up in the quest for oneness, only wait. Oneness will find you. Sarva meaning all the yogic powers, or perhaps simply another word for oneness, doesn't need our work. It is complete and perfect in and of itself. It is everything already always. Our striving rituals and the like are only the noise we make on our way to discovering a silence that was with us all along. So I think we should work for better selves and a better word. But I also believe that we should not make more of our own importance than needed. It is not that we are doing something wrong, something that must be corrected. It is that we are only seeing wrongly. If we only see clearly, correct action will follow naturally. Non-attachments lead us into the dark, to the place where the stars rise above the horizon. Then all we have to do is look up. That's it on this one.
And Carrera says the powers can manifest even if they are not sought after. They may spontaneously appear as the natural result of purity and a selfless, carefree mind. Since the ego is kept out of the mix, this is the best and safest way to attain these powers. And Ryan says, intuition, says Vyasa, precedes discrimination, the Viveka of 226 and 27, as the light of dawn precedes the light of the sun. The yogi is able to attain knowledge of everything, sarvan, due to the spontaneous rise of intuition, pratibha. Vijnana Bhiksu defines intuition as knowledge that is obtained without a teacher. Sankara states that by intuition, the yogi can automatically attain all of the various powers outlined in previous sutras that are gained by the practice of samyama on individual objects. According to the yoga tradition, intuition is associated with the preliminary phase of omniscience. It is the inherent attribute of pure sattva. Okay.
It can't.
Yeah, I seem to remember Amanda saying something about for some people these powers just appear. These just happen without doing samyama without, you know, specifically trying to attain them. They just happen. I guess that's what this is.
On a more basic level, because I haven't experienced this, but on a more basic level, I think of yoga teacher training and how just because you're more in the practice and doing more breathing and meditating, and there's less automatically, if you're doing more of that, there's less of the other like chaotic stuff going on in your head. And remembering like just being calmer, like without trying to be calm, and being more present without thinking about being more present. And I guess this is a whole other level of that, but that's what it's making me think of. Like we don't go into yoga teacher training. I wasn't thinking about any of the stuff that came out of yoga teacher training when I went into yoga teacher training.
Yeah. And I think it was interesting when I met with Amanda. Is Amanda on this morning? No? When I met with Amanda about 4 years ago or so, I can't remember when now. When I met with her the first time I met her, it was for an Ayurvedic consultation. And she met with me for a couple of hours, and we went through a lot of stuff, and she gave me things that I should try to maybe cut out of my diet, things that I should prefer in my diet, and then some practices, restorative practice before I went to bed, and to try meditation, which was the last thing that I tried to do because I just wasn't, you know, at that point I wasn't able really. So I was like, oh, I can't do this. But when I did change those other things, honestly, within about a month, within about 2 weeks, my stomach problems had gone, and I had been suffering with stomach problems for years. And within about a month, I remember driving one day and just feeling so calm and thinking, gosh, this must be to do with just the change in habits that I've done. You know, it was a calmness I wasn't trying for. I wasn't doing any breathing techniques or anything. But I guess that's what they're talking about too, is a change in not just meditating and not just breathing, not just doing asana, it's a whole lifestyle change can bring about. I mean, I'm nowhere near any of this, but I felt a significant change in myself. And that was a reason to keep on this, to keep doing keep on making the changes, which to begin with were difficult, you know, to cut out things that I love to eat were difficult. It's still difficult, you know, not eating pizza, still hard. but when I follow Ayurvedic principles for eating and lifestyle principles, I feel so much better. There's just no doubt about it. And so I'm sure if you're following, I have no doubt that if you're following this really and doing the meditation, eventually at some point, it's going to feel different. Things are going to start to change.
I mean, we've all talked about to like in the beginning when the quarantine was happening and we were all talking about how, because we have the practice, as hard as it was a little easy. Like we all compared to our old selves without the practice and how things would be like a million times harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should I read 35?
Sure.
So 335. By samyama on the heart, the knowledge of the mind stuff is obtained. I'm gonna look up. Oneness with the soul brings the full energy of knowledge. The word hridaya means the heart, but not the physical cardiac organ. It is instead the seat of feelings or the soul. It is the gut intuition that we listen to when we sense we're pulled toward the wrong path, and the place of inner steadiness from which we operate when life is in balance. Patanjali says that if we can know this place through oneness, the knowing beyond knowledge, we will also know the mind, chitta. You might protest that we already know our minds, but do we really? I think instead we only know the surface of our consciousness, and we choose to find satisfaction with that. We fail to see the emotional underpinnings of what we think of as logical thoughts and feelings. We ignore the uprising, kleshas, desire, aversion, fear, and their siblings, and how these hidden drives drive us. In his comments on the sutra, Vyasa wrote, in this citadel of Brahma is the house of the mind stuff. He wants us to remember that without the heart, the soul, the mind has no firm ground from which to reach out to the world. Without this inward turning reference point, we can never really learn to act, only to react. So what of this word, samvit? Built from sam, which means with or together, and vid, to know. It is the full energy of knowledge. It is not intellectual knowing, the knowledge of acquisition, but is instead the understanding that comes from release, from oneness. With this knowing, we gain full energy, the power to act wisely, speak truly, and see clearly. The mind is a wonderful thing, a miraculous mystery even, but it pales in comparison to the soul. Our choice is this: where will we invest our lives most fully, in head or in our heart? It is a choice that we all must make, and one that makes all the difference.
Yeah.
This makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
What does, do you want to read whatever?
Carrera says the fifth and sixth chakras, intellect and seat of mind, might seem more likely objects for gaining knowledge of the mind stuff. Instead, Sri Patanjali cites the heart as the way to attain knowledge of the mind stuff. The mind is dependent for its existence on the ego, which is better approached through the heart. In this case, heart refers to the core or feeling center of the individual, the place where motives and intent reside. Right.
Is that, I'm thinking of Arjuna and that whole, is that in the Gita? What is it in? Where he talks about the rain and the charioteer.
Yes.
That's like, this is what this is making me think about. And how if you let the mind run your life, basically you're its slave. Rather, we have to control the mind. It also makes me think about like anxiety and fear and all kinds of stuff, you know, that the mind throws at us. And if we don't pull away from that, you're basically like, you could be totally frozen and you can't move from that space.
I just got this book. It's another commentary. It's by a woman, and sorry, James, but more for women. It said in the explanation of the book that you know, Patanjali tends to be very male focused, and this is an alternative translation, but she doesn't translate all of the sutra. Well, she doesn't give commentary. The translation, she doesn't do different translations, but she doesn't do commentary in all the sutras. And I haven't started. I wanted to read it from the beginning, and I haven't started that. But I did just open it yesterday, looking to see what if she said anything about these ones. And she doesn't say much about all of these ones, but this one she does. She says it's her personal favorite. And she says, if you venture regularly into the subtler aspects of yoga, the psychic powers are certain to beckon you. While they can be entertaining and interesting, they are not worth our complete dedication, since they distract from the superior illumination and peace beyond the horizons. They may initially excite us because we have not encountered them before. We would be just as amazed seeing TV for the first time, all those little people moving about in that tiny box. In that way, the ordinary mind becomes dazzled by the display of yogic powers. The yogi, in her or his equanimity, recognizes all these powers are natural aspects of her or his expanded mind and emotions. If they are naturally revealed to you, use this precious gift for the greater good. These experiences may visit us during our formal practices or at any other time. We may see flashing lights or angels, hear the phone ring before it rings, choose the scenic road only to find out later that the main highway had been closed for repair, smell blossoms in the winter, or in any number of ways encounter the extraordinary. Often a disciple may be enticed by these powers, or siddhis. It is then the role of the guru or spiritual teacher to guide and keep the disciple out of harm's way. This is the story of one disciple's experience. The long-awaited day of her annual interview with the guru caused her to become very excited. Each year since she came to the ashram, the teacher asked the same question: how are you progressing with your meditation? The disciple each time had no choice but to give the same answer: I am not able to focus my mind and heart for even one moment. But this time she had some wonderful experiences to share. She began by telling the guru about the bright light shooting from the base of her spine, often accompanied by loud chiming sounds. She watched as her beloved teacher carefully listened to her extolling her experiences. As the disciple waited with bated breath to be praised and told how she was finally accelerating rapidly in her spiritual growth, the clever guru did the unexpected. Leaning over, the sage touched her on the top of her head, uttering the words, "Don't worry, this will never happen again." And it never did. As the wise Paramhansa Yogananda said, meditation is not a circus. Do not be caught by the bright lights and sounds. Allow yourself to be totally dedicated to the ultimate realization, the knowledge of your divine self. So that's what she has to say on that one. And that's her last comment on all of the sutras in book 3.
Don't worry, it won't happen again.
So let's not focus on these things happening to it.
But a lot of time, you know, like I mean, I think we've all experienced like getting on the mat and you're frazzled and a complete mess over something, and then you come out with, okay, I'm just gonna do this, and the answer is there. And it's getting out of it's just, for me, it's like literally getting out of my head.
Right.
That's like, we were talking, yesterday, we were talking about parents. We were walking and at night, and there's parents that, anyway, a family that we're friends with, and we were talking, and I don't know how they brought up, oh, he fishes. So he was like, have you ever done paddle boat yoga? It was like 6 a.m, and I hear all this craziness outside my boat. And I look out and there's all these women, and I go, no, I think I would like to try it once. I was like, but I've never done it. But I was like, when I think about, and I've never thought about it like this yet, apart from yesterday, because we were talking about it in a specific way. I'm like, I don't know if I would love it, because for me, when I step on the mat, when I take a class, like halfway through class, I don't know my right from my left. I just don't know anything anymore. Like here, I just go wherever. And that's the beauty of it to me. Apart from like getting all the kinks and tension in my body from moving, to me, that's the most beautiful thing. Like I'm completely out of my head. And I'm like, if I'm doing yoga on paddleboard, I don't think I'll be able to do that, because you just gotta like really keep focusing on your space. Otherwise, I'm just gonna fall.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of those other kinds of yogas, could be fun, but there's a different purpose maybe to them. It's fun and it's exercise. Because I'm sure there's, a lot of.
Well, I'm sure you gotta really,
core. Yeah.
Yeah, core. That's what I was gonna say. I'm sure you're like
paddleboard, but or like goat yoga or stuff like that. That it's fun, but it would take you out of yourself instead of inward, I think.
What time is it? It's 7:58. Should we read 36?
Good.
Okay. So 336. The intellect and the Purusha, Atman, or self, are totally different. The intellect existing for the sake of the Purusha, while the Purusha exists for its own sake. Not distinguishing, this is the cause of all experiences. And by samyama on the distinction, knowledge of the Purusha is gained. I'm going to see what this says. 36. Oneness with the soul brings this knowledge. The soul is pure and perfect and is different than the mind. The mind begs meaning from the soul. The mind begs meaning from the soul, which exists for its own sake. Failure to see the difference between soul and mind brings our experiences of pleasure and pain. Writing of the sutra, Vakaspati said, the trembling of the clear water which reflects the moon is the falsely attributed to the moon. The trembling of the clear water which reflects the moon is falsely attributed to the moon. Suffering in life is a trembling, an unsteadiness in the dance of our experience of pleasure and pain. We tell ourselves that there is a pleasure that can be found to cure all ills, an experience that will last unchanged through turmoil. But whenever we look outward for this, we fail to find it. Patanjali says to instead look inward, to that which is pure and bright, to that which is perfect and endless, to the Purusha, the soul or essence of existence. He then goes on to say that this essence is other than the mind's intellect. It is only when we fail to distinguish soul from mind, moon from reflection, that we find true suffering. There is no need to belittle the mind, one of our greatest tools, though it is other, it is different from the soul. The mind begs meaning from its soul source, from the heart. This is not a menial beginning, but when understood, is instead a calling out, a reaching for a beacon signal from port. Recall that in response to Sutra 3.35, he said that the mind's home is in the heart. Even though the heart, the soul, exists for its own sake, this is not a selfish existence. Just as Krishna in the Gita preaches the message of selfless action, of karma yoga, the soul exists of its own accord, but not for its own aggrandizement. It is meant as a place within which our lives can find shelter and nourishment, a safe home waiting after long journeys. To find our home, we need knowledge of home. We need oneness with that home. The soul is not a way station, not a hostel in a foreign place. It is the first home and the last, truest of true, pure and perfection. Only in home can the trembling of life be stilled. Only there can the mind find its meaning. And only then can the brightest light of the moon shine forth. That's like, it sounds so simple and so complicated all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And that story, the story of the pond, when you throw the rock and there's the ripple that's caused in the surface, but when the rock sinks deep down, it's exactly the way it was. And like being able to get away from all our thoughts and just sink in. And it makes me think of like those moments when you get like, I've only got it I get it sometimes in Shavasana or in like Yoga Nidra when you just float and I don't know where I went and it just feels so nice and you just want to stay there forever. and there's real, like, I don't have a way to express it in words, but just like you're in that space where everything, no matter what's going on around me or whatever I've been dealing with in my day, you're able to, like, when you're able to sink into that space sometimes, and it just feels, everything feels perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. All right, I think we can do 3. Does anyone have anything to add? I'm gonna read 337, and then after this we'll meditate. From this knowledge arises superphysical hearing, touching, seeing, tasting, and smelling through spontaneous intuition. Knowing the difference between soul and mind gives birth to hearing beyond the heard, touching beyond the touched, seeing beyond the seen, tasting beyond the tasted, and smelling beyond the smelled. Another sutra that comes to us with a scarcity of modern comment. Here, the powers of supernatural hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell are attributed to the advanced yoga practitioner. A surface level reading has us understand Patanjali to say that oneness with the soul brings these accomplishments spontaneously to hand. I do not want to discount extraordinarily mental powers in a wholesale fashion. I simply want to say Let us look beneath the surface. We will see that Patanjali considers these accomplishments as impediments to true spiritual progress. So why dwell on them overmuch in literal reading? Tata Pratibha, or vividness, refers us to the soul knowledge of preceding sutras. This gives birth to the powers listed: supernatural hearing, extraordinary touch, the ability to discern ethereal taste, and a supernatural sense of smell. Rather than address each of these, I'll mention only adarsa, or clairvoyance, literally not seeing. When working with difficult sutras, I always ask myself, what is the underlying message, the base on which the words stand? With adarsa and the like, there is a repeated sense of moving beyond sensation. We are clued that if we want to really experience the real, our physical sense will not suffice. Like the practice of pratyahara, we must restrain the senses and wait for the arrival of a different type of observation. In a very real way, we must stop seeing with our eyes and instead look through the lens of the heart. I don't think that Patanjali is asking us to mistrust our senses, only to remain open to possibility of more, to the chance that there is another way to see beyond the seen, and that there is an entire world of experience already contained within us. Normal vision will not suffice to show us that the possibilities in the surrounding world, or to know the innermost land. Patanjali only asks us to open the eyes that see most clearly, and those do not look out from our faces. There's a meme that I've used. I don't know why I remember this. I used it 2 Januaries ago for my Dharma talk. And it's this cute little boy with his, I think he has his hand on his heart and he's like reaching out like this. And it says something like, you can only truly see by looking from your heart. And I wish I could remember what I talked about because it was a long Dharma talk that I wrote, but I can't. But it's, I think of like every time we look at something, or if we go into something, we're going in it with past experiences and all of our samskaras. So if we just think from here, there's no way you're going to be able to really experience what that experience is bringing, because you're coming in with all this baggage and trauma and whatever else it is. So being able to just feel, and not like really feel by hand, but feel from the inside, that's how we're able to get past all that and like really be and really experience the moment and really see. And it's really difficult to do. But I guess if you're constantly practicing that, first of all, you're burning through all past experiences, which brings you more to this moment.
I always think of, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I always think of also how they say the heart chakra is the seat of your inner child. And when you look through the eyes of your inner child, you see things with a kind of original innocence that existed before you were wounded in whatever ways you were.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the real reality we should all be striving to see. It's a very innocent and compassionate way to look at other people in the world.
Yeah, little kids don't judge, and they don't like, because they're able to be present. Like you see them, they fight 1 second, they're like total complete war, and the next second they're best buddies because they're not stuck to like what happened 5 minutes ago and like you just irritated me and whatever. They're like really there, which is so beautiful to watch. So yeah, can you imagine we were all able to do that like all the time?
It's also interesting to watch them like imitate adults. They like put this like almost like a scowl on their face, like to try to look like more serious, and like everything is like, it's like almost like negative when they're imitating us, honestly.
That's so sad.
Not us, but everybody else.
No, I know what you meant, but it's true, and it's so sad.
Yeah.
I'm like scrolling to this real quick to see if I find this meme, because it's like so this sutra, but I'm not gonna be able to find it. Oh, I can see it in my head, but I guess we'll meditate instead. Oh, here we go. Oh, it just says, look, so you guys can picture what's going on in my head. Hold on.
Aww, that's super cute.
It's like, it just means ever, like, shut everything up, and he's touching a tree, and just see with your heart.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that he's holding his hand out too, because actually in Marma, the center of your palm is Hridaya Marma, which is connected to your heart.
Wait, the marma in the hand is connected to the heart?
In the center.
Center of the palm and center of the palm of the foot also. Hridaya Marma.
The foot I knew, I didn't know the hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote here, it's a long thing, but I'm going to just read this one paragraph. Once you find your rhythm, you will find your heart's voice. It longs for you to listen. It offers its wisdom freely because this wisdom has always been yours. Answer the call, shine your light. You cannot go astray. If you choose to live from the heart, seeds, oh, and that's from a blog called Seeds of Love. Okay.
Ashley, if you choose to meditate on your heart chakra, is there a way to use this?
Yeah, you can massage this. I sometimes, and especially because like you think about it too, energetically, you do a lot of things with your hands. What you give into the world is like with your hands, and also what you receive can be with your hands.
Yes.
So if you feel energetic blockages in your heart chakra, you can massage this center point.
Okay, thank you.
Massage it.
There's, I was reading, there's been like these posts going around with like what grandma would say, and it's mostly like Native American wisdom, but there was this one that literally talked like, child, use your hands, do everything with your hands to move the pain. And that makes so much sense now. Okay, it's 8:14. So let's do a few rounds of alternate nose breathing. Sitting up nice and tall. Using the right hand. Peace fingers between the eyebrows or close. Closing the right nostril. Inhaling to the left. Ring finger closes the left nostril. Exhaling right. Inhaling right. Close and hold. Exhaling left. Inhaling left. Close and hold. Exhaling right. Inhaling right. Close and hold. Exhaling left. Inhaling left. Close and hold. Exhaling right. Inhaling right. Close and hold. Exhaling left. Taking 2 more rounds at your own pace, making sure to finish off with the exhale through the left nostril on that last round. And then allowing yourself to drop in. I'll be setting the timer. Gently bring the hands to the heart center. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
great
you,
day.
guys.
Thanks, Micheline.
Thank you. Have a lovely, lovely day.
Everybody.
You too. Bye.